What's up, guys? I'm John.
My name is Chris.
And we are the Heck, and today we're checking out more Overlord lore, which is freaking time for some Beto.
Yeah, more.
And I'm freaking stoked, dude. Yeah. So this one's going to be like, how strong actually is she? And honestly, she could be the weakest character in this anime. She's still the best character.
Strong enough for...
Yeah. She's strong enough to do whatever she wants, okay?
Yes.
So you just give her that first. But either way, man, I am actually stoked about this because, like y'all know, we're both stats nerds in video games and
stats, measurements,
yes, yes,
spells and abilities.
Dun, dun, dun. But yeah, so either way, anything with Beto, really stoked to be checking it out, and also some stat stuff. So like double scratching the itch, dude, getting at that chin, scratching up under that chin of the itch, dude. But either way, if you're new to our channel, smash that sub button. If you want to support our channel, there's a link to our Patreon in the description below, and we will catch y'all over there possibly. But for now, a boop, and then hitting that little play button, a boop.
Whoa, 3 Albedo videos in a row?
3?
Don't say I never do anything for you guys.
Sheesh.
Just make sure you tune in for my
Albedo.
Gilgamesh one coming out later this week, and watch this one till the end, so I can just talk a bit about how you can support the channel.
Oh.
And no, it's not a Patreon pitch.
Well, we
So
do
here we are
that,
with
so
this
I
video
just throw that
will
out
hopefully
there.
answer the question to the title by not actually
It's not
answering
a
the
Patreon.
question at all. How strong is Albedo? We've actually never seen her fight, or even step foot into combat for that matter. Yet there's gotta be
Right?
something
That's the only
other
thing I
than her
wish would happen.
superior
Yeah.
administrative skills that grants her the
see her
position
fight.
of Guardian Overseer.
I mean, she would
So
crush
let's
some
take a
people.
look
Yeah.
at everything from her class and race build
Like,
to
that
her
suit's pretty
abilities and
freaking
the
awesome.
equipment that she carries, and see exactly what that something is. While we will start with her class and race, you should know that the Overlord source material is notorious for giving almost no information on mechanics like races, classes, and abilities. The
They're
best
just
that
like,
you'll
you know
usually
what it
get
is. I
just
mean,
a
come
name.
on. It's
Fortunately,
like, freaking
it's
beast.
not too hard to speculate a little on what those classes or races may be able to do just based on their name alone. I mean, I'm sure many of you already are aware that Overlord's mechanics are very, very, very heavily based on the tabletop role-playing game Dungeons & Dragons, so you can get a lot of hints on races just by looking them up in that game. Classes, on the other hand, are something that you'd see in almost any MMOs, so that's a straightforward
that
concept in
so?
itself. What we do know is that classes come in 3 varieties. Common, which according to the web novel maxed out at level 15 and were available to anyone at character creation. Uncommon maxed out at level 10 and required the user to meet specific requirements, such as gaining certain levels in other classes and or completing a particular
that's cool.
quest in the game.
Okay.
And
so
finally,
that's
there's the
specialty.
rare, which maxed out at level 5 and had a long list of requirements that needed to be met or were otherwise well hidden by the devs. You can learn about the full extent of races and
pretty
classes
wild.
by
That's
checking
pretty
out my
cool.
video
I would love a
covering
game
the
like
known
that where
mechanics
I'm
of
just like
Yggdrasil.
trying to get rares.
But
to be like,
just keep in mind that for this video, you're going to hear a bit of speculation mixed in with all the facts. Now, let's get started.
what do they call
Albedo
that
is
with two
part of
different
a
eye
collection
colors?
of races known as
Heochromia or
demons.
something like that?
The race of
yeah,
demons,
heterochromia,
like
I
most
think
denizens of
something like
Nazarick, fall under the category of heteromorph,
Demons.
which, in
Heteromorph.
short,
Yeah.
means that she doesn't just have one race, but rather has access to a full racial class tree in addition to the ordinary job class tree.
Well, that's freaking cool.
As they max out one racial job, heteromorphs could literally morph from one race into a more powerful variant of it, unlocking the ability to continue leveling in that new race. The name
pretty
itself
wild.
is derived from a real-life group of animals who morph as part of their development cycle. You know, like how caterpillars change into butterflies. So 30 of
nice.
Albedo's 100 levels are dedicated to racial classes, though her character sheet only confirms that 10 of them are in the imp race. It is suspected
Yeah.
by the fans that she
dang.
also has levels in
That's pretty
succubus.
rad.
I wonder why.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
then she
yeah.
also has Nalfishni, which we'll talk about later. But starting
Nalfishni?
with the imps,
I've never
from
heard of
a
that.
mythological
either.
standpoint, they're just small, mischievous winged creatures.
Oh.
Imp is probably just a derivative race for most, if not all, flying demons, since Demiurgus also has imp levels and can fly. Succubae, on the other hand, which I'm now officially coining as the new term for Albedo, are mythological monsters who would
Yeah.
tempt mortals with their sexual allure, only to drain them of their life or drag them to hell.
I
We
mean,
know for a
listen.
fact that Albedo is called a
Do what you
succubus by
must.
most
Yes.
including Ainz. So it's pretty safe to say that she actually has
Wanted
levels
to do
in it.
something.
But that doesn't necessarily guarantee it. We don't even know for sure if the racial class even existed as an option in the game. And
Oh,
it's
dang.
not ever explicitly stated that she has any of the supernatural abilities that might be possessed by a succubus. Those include the ability to charm people or drain them of their life energy. That said,
Them.
her stunning beauty is definitely implied to be quite alluring,
like, here,
so
hold
it's
this
probably a
darkness.
safe assumption.
Yeah.
Now, a Nalthashni in Dungeons & Dragons
He doesn't
judges damned
necessarily
souls
look
that
like
fall into
Beta
hell
there.
and relishes in meting out their punishments. They are among the more intelligent of
Good
demons
God.
and generally disdain combat as they
Think you
see
can
it as
fly with
being
those
beneath
wings?
them. However, they can
Okay, so like,
Imagine
yeah.
lifting off. I mean, it's gonna be
Oh,
like
God.
this. Like,
What if it had like just extreme aerodynamics and it was just like flying all over the place to that thing? Dude, so like, what if,
gotta be 800 plus pounds.
yeah, you like, I don't know, man. What if, I mean, we really haven't seen Beta without a lot of that, armor and stuff on, or
Yeah,
like her
underneath,
dress and stuff
she's
on.
just
So
jacked.
like, what, yeah,
still
I don't know,
easily
man.
succumb to
More
bloodlust and
hoggish.
battle rage.
Dang.
Nalthashni is the most contentious and speculative. You see, Albedo is one of the few members of Nazarick who are a special type of heteromorph, one that can actively transform, gaining new abilities but losing others. We actually saw this type of behavior exhibited by Demiurgus at some point during Season 1. You see, some of the guild members of Ainz Ooal liked the idea of their NPCs having final forms that they could transform into. Their
Yeah,
final form would
Frieza,
thus be far more powerful, but far more monstrous looking than their base humanoid form. So, most of the evidence that Albedo can use her heteromorphic abilities to transform into a Nalthashni are circumstantial. The one that initially set the fan theories flying was actually the bass scene from Season 3, Episode
so
1,
funny.
since we hear her stomping around like a giant, and then Shaltir calls her Harry. Though that could imply something else.
Oh, dang.
Other things about Nalthashnis that seem to fit
That's
into place
wild.
are her haughty yet quick-tempered personality, the resemblance of her wings, her
Could
high
imply
intelligence,
something else
and
for
a few
sure,
other
but
small
also
details.
what's
The
up with
remainder of
stomping?
Albedo's levels were focused on the defense-oriented Dark Knight archetype.
Oh, nice.
Namely, she has 10 levels in Guardian, 5 levels in Blackguard, 10 levels in Unholy Knight, 5 levels in Shield Lord, and then 40 other levels that are unspecified. She supposedly
lot of
has levels in the Dark
unspecified.
Knight class as well, but that could just be a term for the general category, which includes all these classes, and not necessarily a class on its own.
A lot of
While we don't have the
defensive
exhaustive
stuff.
breakdown on what these classes actually
Tank
do,
skills.
what we do know is that Albedo is among the top warriors in all of Nazarick, specifically due to the fact that she's essentially the tankiest. I
The
mean, with
tankiest?
classes called Guardian, Blackguard, and Shield Lord, you can imagine that she has quite the high defensive stats. Just look at her HP and physical and magic defense stats.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
They're
God
practically
dang,
at
dude.
100. So it's not too hard with this information and with
That's
the names
perfect.
that we've been given to speculate on what these classes are capable of doing.
I like the
A class
difference
like
in
Guardian
the two videos
might
you
be
just showed
useful for
us.
protecting oneself or others, while Shield Lord might boost her ability to use shields. Blackguards in
Shield
Dungeons and Dragons are basically evil paladins that made a pact with an otherworldly evil creature in exchange for power, and were probably a rare variant of the Unholy Knight class, since
Sounds like
that also
something.
sounds like an evil paladin. So as a paladin-style character, she's
Paladins are
probably
really
got
fun
a
to play,
variety
though.
of utility
Oh, yeah.
spells, self-healing, smite attacks, and blessing or curses to go along with her high defense.
paladin
Now,
tendon.
if we
Wow,
shift
you're
over
that-
to her combat specs, as I had just stated, Albedo is one of the top 5 warriors in all of Nazarick, with Rubedo being
Whoa,
at the
top
top,
5.
then Shaltir with her 1v1 PvP specialized build that can beat almost any other character in a straight-up fair fight, then
That
a
is
three-way tie between Cocytus, Albedo, and Sebas. Cocytus being this
I
glass
love that-
cannon type character with unrivaled offensive capability.
I gotta say, I love that we actually have seen Cocytus and Sibas fighting. Like we've seen them. Is that how you say it?
Well, the way he said it, Sebas.
Sebas. Sebas.
We always just said Sebas, but
yeah,
I mean,
Sebas.
I
There
guess
you
it
go.
can
I heard
be
the way
anyway.
he said it. I was like,
Yeah.
what the fuck? But yeah, Sebas. I love the way that like we've actually seen them battle and know like they just pretty much nobody stands a chance against them
Nah.
that has fought against them.
like hand-to-hand combat with Sebas.
Mhm.
Nah.
And whenever Cocytus was like walking down the street and everything was freezing and like he saw, I can't remember who it was.
Brain.
Brain, there you go. And he just like he definitely showed him respect as a warrior, but destroyed him. I mean, like
Yeah.
it wasn't. Nobody
I
ever
mean,
thought that
he's
he
got
stood a
4
chance,
arms
but
that can each carry incredibly powerful weapons.
it's probably
Then
one of my
Sebas has a
favorite
nice balance
characters.
between offense
Yeah,
and defense.
he's saying it
Sort
weird.
of like an in-between of Cocytus and Albedo, since Albedo falls into the defensive spectrum, boasting the tankiest build. In fact, there exists
Man,
a sort
her
of
armor
rock,
is
paper,
freaking
scissors
rad.
relationship between the 3 of them due to the particularities of their build. Cocytus beats Albedo, Albedo beats Sebas, and Sebas beats Cocytus. So something like DPS beats
pretty
tank,
wild.
tank beats hybrid, and hybrid beats DPS. sounds like something that you might see in your typical MOBA. This list, of course, doesn't include magic casters like Mare, who could probably beat everybody else other than Shaltir with the overwhelming destructive power and versatility of his magic. It also doesn't include support builds who would be useful in a team fight, like the mysterious 7th member of the Pleiades, Ooal Omega. And it also doesn't take into account Ainz's most valuable weapons of tactics, strategy, planning, information, and of course, cash shop items.
Yeah.
As he had demonstrated in his fight against Shaltir,
He paid to win.
despite the overwhelming disparity between their builds. But focusing on just Albedo now, even though her defensive capabilities are unmatched in Nazarick, it's not just her combination of equipment and abilities that grant her such a powerful defense. Her innate defenses are abnormally powerful even without her equipment. In fact, she once took a punch from Demiurgus straight in the abdomen and barely felt it. He actually took more damage to his hand hitting her than she did from him.
What?
She can also take one of Cocytus's most powerful attacks, his so-called immovable Wisdom King Strike, which requires him to stand still and channel power for several seconds. Though she did get moderately injured, it was not enough to be life-threatening.
Wonder why they
We
did
can
that,
use
though.
her character sheet to
Just
confirm her
checking
durability.
her out, like see
Might
what
have been
happened.
She's tagged with
training or
Cocytus and
something?
Sebas for the highest HP at
Ruler
100.
of Glaciers.
And then she has the
Butler of
highest physical
Steel?
defense at 95, magical defense at 95, and resistances at 90. While these stats are merely relative and exist only to give you a rough method of comparing the various guardians, it
the way,
confirms
her
that
being
she's the most
character two
tanky
is pretty
character in
awesome.
Nazarick against
Yeah.
both physical and magical attackers. Her high resistances also let her resist debuffs and negative status effects, including instant kill attacks.
So she
So
can be
for
poisoned.
example, she could be attacked by spells like Ainz's Grasp Part, but not die. Albedo also has a variety of skills related to her
Grasped
role
it,
as a
but it
tank,
didn't kill me.
Yeah.
but she's been
Didn't do
involved in
nothing
so
with it.
few fights that we really only know of a few. First off is Transposition. This allows her to instantly swap places with an allied friendly unit. The gauge of the distance that it can cover is at least
That's
a couple
pretty cool.
dozen
That's
meters,
kinda like the
if not
clap,
more.
the
Then
clap
she is
effect
capable
from,
of parrying melee attacks using her parry
Justifying.
active. And this grants a chance of success depending on the skill and power of the
But I know
attack.
what you're talking about.
For ranged and projectile attacks,
Toto.
she can use missile parry to
It's like my
completely
favorite,
negate it,
for sure.
and if successful, reflected back completely at the attacker using counter arrow.
Oh, damn.
Then she has what's
That's pretty
called the
cool.
Walls of Jericho and Aegis, which are both skills that appear to temporarily boost her defense. Though their exact nature is unclear, they could boost physical defense, magical defense, resistance, health regeneration, or some combination of any or all four of those, though damage reduction seems like the most likely. Lastly, we know she can summon a bicorn at will and use it as a mount, though as we recently saw, it won't really go anywhere due to her still being pure and whatnot. Aside from Albedo's personal problems, demons in general tend to be able to summon lesser demonic entities to do their bidding, and this may be a function of that ability.
She
It's
looks
not known
freaking
whether any
wild,
of these
dude.
skills have cooldowns, daily usage limits, or can
They
just
can
be
walk
used
on the
freely.
cold ground.
But normally, powerful skills like these in Overlord are subject to particular usage limits.
I miss watching
She
this
also
show, like
appears
just
to have
weekly
the ability
episodes
to
of the
heal
show
her
so
own
much,
wounds,
man.
either through the magic
Same.
of her Dark Knight class or via passive health regeneration. And finally, the most important ability that Albedo has is the option to redirect the complete damage of a single attack onto her armor.
I don't know about
Something that she
the
can
most.
pull off up
I
to
was
3
about to
times
say,
a
that's
day.
not what I was thinking.
Yeah,
Regardless
homie,
of
you've
the
gone a
power of the
little
attack,
off on that
and
one.
is capable of tanking even a super tier spell, though it only redirects the damage itself and not any other potential negative effects, so it will not help against attacks that do not deal damage. But what this means is that Albedo
was
can
such a cool
survive
ep.
3 hits of the most powerful attack possible in a single fight, with only the cost of heavy damage to her armor.
Damn.
Speaking of her armor, let's talk about her equipment now,
Yes.
of which she has 3 notable pieces. The first being the world item Ginnungagap. In Norse mythology, Ginnungagap is the primordial void that existed in the universe prior to the cosmos and to which the universe will eventually return to during Ragnarok.
Well, that's
In
cool.
Yggdrasil, it's the name for a world-class item that was owned by the guild Ainz and which had been given to Albedo by Tabula
She
Smaragdina
never
without permission of
releases.
the other guild members. While its precise special power is not explained, it appears to have something to do with dealing damage over a large area to physical objects. So perhaps it swallows things into a void like a black hole. In its ordinary form, it's shaped like a wand, though it also has the ability to transform itself into an alternate version, which Albedo normally uses as her primary weapon,
That is
though
pretty
its
cool looking.
alternate appearance is unknown since Ainz forbid her from carrying it into battle back in Season 1 out of fear of losing it to an enemy. Even though this is a world-class item, it's not as powerful as even a specialized divine-class weapon against individual targets. Instead, it seems to have been intended to give Albedo either something like a wide area of effect attack, or the ability to break through even
That
the
was such an
toughest
awesome
physical
fight.
objects, which could, for instance, help her gain aggro or shred armor. But who knows when we'll find out this weapon's true nature. Next up, we've got her armor, Hermes Trismegistus. It's a divine class item that was created by Tabula specifically to work best with Albedo's special ability to redirect damage. It's named as a reference to the author who was said to have founded Hermeticism. This author also allegedly wrote the Emerald Tablet, so I bet you're seeing the pattern here. It's fairly weak for a divine class armor, which is a fact that initially confuses both Albedo and Shaltir. It's got very few in the way of defensive enhancements, special abilities, magical resistances, or even stat buffs. Nearly everything in the armor was
Maybe
designed
it's
to increase its
indestructible.
durability. But why? Well, it was so that it wouldn't break if Albedo did use her ability to redirect the entire
So
damage
almost
of a single attack
indestructible.
onto
Yeah.
it. Because of this, the armor was designed with 3 layers. A skin-tight liquid bodysuit that boosts her physical abilities, a full-body undershirt mail that provides decent defensive stats, and an outer layer of plate that protects and reinforces the inner layers.
That's awesome.
So, even if she was attacked with something that could deal enough damage to destroy her armor, it would only destroy one of the 3 layers.
Oh,
Many
damn.
useful enchantments
really
were
cool.
sacrificed in order to achieve this effect, but in reality, the 3-layer mechanism made it little more than a gimmick useful for buying time in the face of true power. Her build was never intended for anything more than absorbing a few hits from a level 100 player in order to buy the guild members a precious few seconds.
I think one thing that's wild about this, and especially whenever we start breaking down like power and technique and like skill set and stuff like that, it's very rarely, now in the show at least, utilized. Because like, who can stand against them really?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's just so OP that
Yeah.
that most of the extra abilities never even get
Yeah.
touched. It's
Yeah.
just like, what can anybody
I mean,
do?
dude, like that armor, even though it might not be like the most badass in this world right now, I think it is. I mean,
Yeah.
except for like the maybe people that are floating out there right now that we don't know about, nobody else really been able to even come in close proximity of hurting her. The only person I would say would even come close was that time Shaltir went crazy. And
Oh,
she
yeah.
definitely would have caused a problem. But
yeah.
Unfortunately for Albedo, each layer covered her whole body, so having her armor broken while protecting Ainz wouldn't help her expose some of her skin to him, which would have been the ideal situation for her. This ended up being quite annoying and concerning for her, especially since the armor was a creation of the Supreme Beings, so thinking of it as inadequate in any way was practically a treasonous thought.
oh, shit.
And finally, as we all know, like most
Even if it's
Guardians,
bad, you can't even
Albedo
think
was
it's
granted
bad.
the Ring of Ainz Ooal Golem, a piece of equipment owned by every former member of the guild and which could be used to bypass the spells and mechanisms that disabled and or disrupted teleportation throughout the various floors of Nazarick. Without this ring, an invader would have to go through each floor one by one. Those attempting to teleport could be pulled from their intended destination and into a trap or ambush, or merely just prevented completely from finishing their spell. Unfortunately, yet again for Albedo, Ainz is paranoid of any potential foe obtaining this ring, so he forbids Guardians from wearing the ring during any operations outside of the tomb. And that finishes up her
That's
equipment.
pretty cool.
So that's pretty much everything about Albedo. Though the question, how strong is she, should really just be, how tanky is she? And clearly the answer is a lot. She's
A lot
literally a
tanky.
damage sponge, which honestly wasn't the type of build that I initially thought that Tabula would have given her, but
Not
I
at
guess
all.
if
She doesn't
Rubedo is
look
meant
like
to be
it.
the super DPS and Negretto is the stealth informant, then I guess tank would be the way to go. Anyway, that's pretty much it, so that means the next person I cover will be decided through the poll that should now be posted on my channel page.
Yeah,
So go
yeah.
vote for who you think should be covered next.
So, dude, all right, really quick, just thinking about this. First of all, like, whenever you think of a tank, what comes to mind?
I mean, like big, extremely bulky armor.
Yeah,
Huge
yeah.
shield. Maybe like a giant hammer or something.
Yeah.
One-handed hammer.
Same. I think that
Sort of divine holy abilities too.
Yeah,
Maybe.
yeah.
Something like that.
they do such a good job in this show of being like, here's what you think it is, but really what it is
Yeah.
this. And they do that a lot throughout this entire show, man, with characters, with like random things, but then also in the story. Like, if you think about the way they tell the story, it's very like, watch this, but really something else.
Yeah,
happening.
yeah.
And I don't know. I think
That's
it's
so
cool that
cool.
everything, like, throughout this entire show, it's, like, present everywhere. They've thought of literally everything with the show. The storytellers are perfect, man.
Like the deception that it brings, like helps in combat too.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't think that they could tank. So
Yeah.
you just go right at them.
Yeah.
But they can
and then,
tank
like,
everything.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, wait, what? But anyway, dude, I absolutely love this one. You learn a lot more about, like, her just, I mean, obviously her stats and stuff like that, but learn new stuff about her that I had no idea that she was so tanky. And also, like, I always thought she was a badass, but now it's, like, it's proven.
Yeah, like we had a lot of people telling us about how tanky she was, like while we were watching the show, but we didn't really have an actual idea of the amount of tankiness. But after seeing that, it's like she was the ultimate tank, basically.
Yeah, dude, for real. But anyway, man, thank y'all very much for checking this one out. And for real, if y'all have any news about, like, the new season or anything coming out, please keep us posted with stuff, man. I'm seriously, especially after watching this, I'm like, damn it, I want to rewatch it.
Yeah, I miss it so much.
Yeah. But either way, homies, y'all be good. And yeah, we'll catch y'all next time. Freaking toodles.
Later.
Bye.